Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on and take a look at some picks and previews for the rest of the games. Teams that have games in hand. Let's take a look at North Carolina Courage versus San Diego Wave FC. This one, I don't know if I went super back and forth on this one too much, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there and give my pick first. Lisa, I'm gonna go with North Carolina Courage. This one, even after the midweek result that they just had and the efforts that they just put, even with the struggles that they've had with players out on COVID protocol, I do believe they're gonna perhaps get some of these players back because this game takes place on Sunday. I'm going with North Carolina Courage in this one. How about you?
I agree with you. I'm going to go with North Carolina in this one too. It, of course, depends on availability, player personnel availability. But if we have Caitlin Rowland back and Casey Murphy still questionable, who do you think gets the start between those two?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I think it just depends on how Murphy is feeling.
Yeah.
After that kind of first outing that she had midweek. I know that Caitlin Rowland is a player who's been in the Courage system for some time. She's a player that they made a move for to get back into their program. But Casey Murphy, since she has made her arrival to the Courage, has been the starting goalkeeper for this team. She has been in multiple United States women's national team camps. She has a lot of clout around her right now, quite frankly. And just putting it quite simply, she is a good goalkeeper.
Oh, yes.
So I would imagine that if you have this type of caliber of goalkeeper who is able to go, you would play them. But was this start issued out of necessity, out of player circumstance? You know, there's a little unclarity there. So if Roland is able to go back and to net, and Murphy is actually maybe only somewhere between a 60 to 80%, I think that maybe with the quick turnaround, you give this game to Roland.
I agree entirely. It so much depends on Casey Murphy's availability and how she is feeling. But I'm thinking that North Carolina is going to have a lot of their players back in this match that were out on COVID protocol. I agree. I think North Carolina gets the upper hand over San Diego. San Diego also a quick turnaround from their midweek match that they just played against Racing Louisville, and they were handed a loss in that match. So both of these teams coming off of losses, but I still give the upper hand to North Carolina. So we're both going Courage in this win.
We're both going Courage in this win, and that's not to take it away anything from San Diego, but I just think that this run that they went on to start their regular season was impressive, and I'm still impressed by it. I shouldn't use the past tense. I mean, they leveled things out a little bit in this match that they just had against Racing Louisville, and were maybe fell just short of potentially snatching a point away from that one. But the win streak was snapped, and sometimes that hits a little bit of a reset button, like I mentioned. But I don't know if that is going to happen in this game. Again, we're talking about expansion sides that are getting looks at more established NWSL clubs as the regular season goes on. And this is an opportunity for San Diego, I'm sure, to take a look at and say, how can we sort of address the opportunity in front of us to go ahead and maybe shock some people. Maybe they look at a North Carolina Courage side that has had a lot of success in their past, and quite frankly, recently with their Challenge Cup win. And maybe they want to, circle this one and say, this is a match that we want to have a strong performance in. But I think with the quick turnaround, I think with another opportunity on the road, I'm not too sure if they're going to have all of the pieces there, because now San Diego is being presented with the challenges that a lot of other clubs are being presented with: player rotation, minute management, and stuff like that. So travel on top of that with the legs, right? And then we'll see how that plays out. So I'm giving the edge to North Carolina, and I like that we went to Courage for both of us here. We'll see how that plays out. Another team that we haven't seen in a little while, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, going to face Racing Louisville FC. Lisa, we haven't seen Gotham FC. They had their home opener postponed against North Carolina Courage a couple weeks or so ago, due to the fact that there was the COVID protocol for both sides of the pitch here when they were going up against North Carolina Courage. They had 4 players out. I believe the Courage had about 6 or 7 out. So the game was called. It said, hey, we're going to postpone it and reschedule it. So Gotham has not been able to see some NWSL action in quite some time, and they're going to be going up against a Racing Louisville side that just got a victory over San Diego Wave FC. So when you're looking at these two teams, tell me who you're picking and why.
So you have to look at Gotham and their regular season. Yes, they're coming off of a bye week, technically, with that postponement. And they started the regular season with a bang, 3-0 over Orlando Pride. And then the next week turned around and it was handed to them 4-0 against San Diego Wave. They lost that one. So pretty hot and cold from Gotham FC. Did this off week and the bye week with the postponement, dealing with a bit of COVID protocol, help them or hurt them? Because some teams, they need those games to stay consistent, to stay on top of it. Honestly, I don't think that's Gotham, because throughout the Challenge Cup, they were consistently hot and cold. If that's an oxymoron, if you ever heard one, consistently hot and cold. But that's exactly what Gotham was. So I'm thinking that an off week has truly helped Gotham be able to work on some of the things that they need to work on, focus on them, go against consistent competition in training every day against their own teammates and opponents in that sense. And now, as they have to face on a team in Racing Louisville that is coming off of a midweek match, and that Gotham is playing at home, they'll play at Red Bull Arena. I think Gotham could get a win out of this one. And that is not to say anything against Racing Louisville, because if any team can go into Red Bull and beat a team like Gotham, it's going to be Racing Louisville, with their set piece opportunities, with their threats in the front, with Jess McDonald and the possession that they've been able to build out of the back. And Katie Lund in goal has done tremendous for Racing Louisville. I just think that Gotham, being a team that's coming off of a lot of training, no game last week, they have the upper hand in this one, especially with fresh legs, no travel, and no midweek game against Racing Louisville. So I give it to New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC.
I respect it. Listen, I hate to do it, Lisa, but I've got this one pegged as a draw too.
Wow.
It's too much back and forth for me to go in it. Maybe that's a safe pick or not. I usually like to go bold and just pick a winner, pick a loser, but there's, like you mentioned, there's just been way too much inconsistency from Gotham for me. And Racing Louisville, I think, can sometimes be a little inconsistent in times as well. But I feel like I've seen a little bit more from this Racing Louisville side to sort of have enough to say that they might come out and look a certain type of way in this match. They are going to be on the road. They are coming off of a quick turnaround, but I'm not too sure if I'm looking at that as a negative for them. And perhaps this is a game that might come down to something like set pieces. And if it does, that's a scary position to be in if you're the opposition going up against Racing Louisville, because they show that they can absolutely capitalize on those moments. I'm also looking at perhaps maybe a more defensively organized shape from both of these teams here.
Yes.
We're seeing Louisville, in my opinion, kind of come off of a game where they can point to and say, we did some really good things here defensively. Let's try to make sure that we keep this going. When you're looking at a Gotham FC side, helped and anchored by somebody like a Caprice Didasco, you're looking, I think, at maybe two back lines that are going to try to present some challenges for the attacks on both sides of the pitch here. And I think because of that, it might do a little bit of canceling out of some things here, which is why I think we might get a draw. And I also think it might be a narrow draw. I don't anticipate this one being a shootout at all, but hey, I would love to come on here and talk about how wrong I was. Last one, Lisa, we've got Orlando Pride versus Chicago Red Stars. Tell me who you're picking in this one and why.
I have Chicago Red Stars in this match. I know that is music to your ears to hear that, but Chicago traveling to Orlando, they're going to be playing at Exploria Stadium. Chicago, no midweek game for them, so they've had a bit of rest. And also, I'm hoping to see the return of Mallory Pugh. She's been out now for a handful of games with concussion protocol. She has been training, but can we get her back in a game? Can we get some minutes for Pugh? How the midfield looks for Chicago, that's a little bit of a question mark as well. Morgan Gautral has been out with a bit of injury. Any updates from you on that, Sandra, before I'm
not as of right now.
Okay.
Yeah, not as of right now. When we spoke to Chris Petroselli ahead of that previous game for the Red Stars, he mentioned that was maybe a week too soon for
Right.
a player like Malpugh. So maybe this upcoming week isn't a week too soon for somebody like Malpugh. If she is available, I think that changes things for this Red Star side immediately. Quite frankly, even if she's unavailable for this one, I think maybe there's some unknowns here for the Orlando Pride that might go against them a little bit. So we're looking at Chicago Red Stars teams that they're not too sure if they're going to face a Malpugh, and these two new pieces that they've got. Well, one new piece and a returning piece for Chicago. They're going to eventually welcome in Chelsea Darber coming from the A League. And then we've got Sarah Luber making her return from loan after she had spent nearly 2 years or about 18 months or so in Liga MX Femenil with Club America. And we're seeing the return of her for this from loan for the Chicago Red Stars team. And I think for Orlando Pride, if you're looking at things, there's not a lot of footage or film to go off of if you're looking at these two new attacking pieces that are about to be reintegrated for this Chicago Red Stars team. On the other side of that, these are two new players who haven't played with this 2022 side. How is that going to look for Chicago? Has there been enough time in training? Has there been enough, opportunities for these players to kind of get reintroduced to things and get a little bit familiar with the Chicago Red Star side and how they're trying to play? So that is an argument that can maybe go against them as well. We're not too sure if we're actually going to see them within this match. We'll see, but we do know one thing: Orlando Pride's got Sydney Leroux, and we know that she can make things happen.
She definitely can. And what we've seen from Orlando is that they've got a great high press. That's clearly something that they've worked on, that they talk a lot about, and that they focus on. That's how they've gotten goals. It's how they've gotten quick goals early in the game, because it's a high press, forcing teams to try to build out of the back, or if they go long, looking to win it immediately in the midfield. And I'm expecting to see that again. We saw minute management between players like Leah Pruitt, Jan's daughter, Darian Jenkins in this midweek action. So will they get the start again this week alongside LaRue and players like that? I'm not sure. I'm thinking that we will, though. However, Chicago's a team that can build out of the back. That's something that Chris Petroselli loves to do, is possess. He talked so much about how, coming from the collegiate game in Southern Methodist University, it was so hot that his team couldn't run. They couldn't just chase and transition. They had to possess the ball and let the ball do so much of the work. And that's what he wanted to bring to this Chicago team. And now is a chance that Chicago will be tested. Can they build out of the back consistently? Can they break down a high press with a lot of quick, smart defenders on that counter press in LaRue, Jenkins, Leah Pruitt? That becomes a great outlet for the Pride. And that's really the test. And those are the moments that I'm going to be watching at: the high press and how Chicago can break it down. I think Chicago can do it, though. I honestly think that they can break it down in a variety of ways, switching the point of attack, breaking that first line of defense with a great through ball, and then turning and going with the power they have up top, whether it's Ava Cook, hopefully Mallory Pugh is back. We'll see kind of how that unrolls. Ella Stevens as well, a huge threat for them.
We'll see. We're both going Chicago on this one. We'll see how it plays out.